toasting. Yeah, that's what we do. Set 'em up, knock 'em down, make that cherry glow. Whiskey and cigars, the gentleman's cologne.
Cheers, y'all.
Well.
That sounds like a party just about to begin, ladies and
Welcome,
gentlemen.
ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program, podcast, and video extravaganza known internationally
Hi, Mom.
as the world-famous Smokin' and Toastin'. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We'll talk about
I love those things.
all of those things as the program unfolds today. It's show number 405. What time is it?
What time is it?
It's time to get social and drink some whiskey.
Okay.
In my head, it's Morris Day going, "What time is it?" You know, remember that from the...
It is a bird, right?
Yeah, that's right.
With Jerome.
Yeah. Jerome's job was to dance next to him and hold the mirror so he could comb his hair.
Yeah. Pick up his jacket, take it off, put it on.
That's good stuff.
That is brilliant.
So it's time to drink whiskey, and our special guests on the program today, Dominic and Todd from the Whiskey Social. Guys, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to have you
Thank
here. Just so I will get it right at least once, pronounce your last names for me, both of you. Is it
Sung.
Sung, rather
Nice and
than
easy.
Sung?
Yeah.
Okay.
Grube.
And Grube. See? Okay. Perfect. I would have gotten those both incorrect in the first pass. So at least this time.
Everybody does.
I'll get them right once, and then I'll probably screw it up before the program's over. Speaking of special guests, we do want to say special big thanks to last week's guest, James Corona from Still Austin Whiskey Company. I've been nursing what's left of that bottle of Still Austin that I went home with after the show. Oh, that's so good.
He was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We went out to Kenny and Ziggy's and had lunch afterwards.
Oh, nice.
Hung
Great
out for a
place.
while.
That's great.
Good
Love
time,
it.
that
Yes.
place.
It's a good time. It's a place to get a bologna sandwich like your mom never made you. Because mom always put like 1-2 slices of bologna.
Also-
There they put like an entire bologna loaf on.
Also, you can't eat the whole thing. It's
No,
outrageous
it's-
how big the sandwich
Yeah.
is.
Do you want chips? Does it matter? Exactly. So we'll be tasting some whiskeys that the guys have brought with them, and I'm very excited just glancing at the bottles, but we'll get to that in a little bit here. We're also going to be trying some beers today from Wayfinder Beer out of Portland, Oregon. We'll be trying their Bavarian-Style Pilsner called Party Time.
that
Just
sounds
very
fun.
basic and simple. I like it. From Magnify Brewing in Fairfield, New Jersey, we'll be trying their Imperial IPA called Cold Side. Take a walk on the cold side.
I don't think we've tried anything from Magnify.
I don't think so. And I don't think we've tried anything from Taxman Brewing Company out of Bargersville, Indiana. But today we will try their Bourbon Barrel No Sparge. It's an Imperial Golden Ale. So
No Sparge?
no Sparge. I don't even know what that means, but I think there's an explanation on the can. So we'll get to that when
That's
we...
part of the brewing process.
That's right. Maybe Sparge is like the beer equivalent of Angel Shares. I don't know. Just guessing. I have no idea.
We'll talk about that when it gets there.
Yeah, we'll tell you about some cigars to watch for. We'll bring you our drinking news, which is our most popular segment here on the program. That comes in the second hour of the show. Our drinking news teaser headline today: if you give a crap about art, this story is for you. And we'll bring you our drinking fact here in just a couple of moments. That's become a surprisingly popular segment on the show where we bring you a fact about drinking that is actually true. Our drinking fact teaser today is put your hands in the air and drop that bag of garbage. Garbage has been a big word in the political landscape for the last week or so. So we'll join in without taking sides. That's what we like to do. Again, tell you about some cigars to watch for. We'll talk a lot about whiskey today because we have some very interesting looking whiskeys to try. And of course, one of the things that we like to do in our first segment here is taste something that one of us brings in. Only one of us knows what it is. It's already been poured. And so it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for the beverage of mystery. So I brought today's beverage of mystery. So I'm the only one who knows what it is, at least at this moment. Ian might know what it is from the look on his face. So so we're sniffing here.
This is pretty easily. This is pumpkin stout.
All right. So do you know what pumpkin stout it is?
It smells like St. Arnold.
It smells really good.
If that's what St. Arnold smells like, I need to go spend some more time over in that building.
Well, not that St. Arnold smells like a pumpkin stout, but it smells like St. Arnold's pumpkin stout. Pumpkin stout. Make it make sense.
All right. So that would be what, the Pumpkinator? Mm-hmm. Guys, what do you think?
Definitely pumpkin stout. I don't know which.
Well, I went and sipped because I thought we were sipping, but I had guessed pumpkin stout based on the nose.
Yeah, we can definitely sip.
Oh, yeah,
I don't think
we're all in now.
Yeah, it's pumpkin stout. I mean, I couldn't tell you what, so I'm just going to go with Ian and say whatever Ian said is right.
Well,
I'll tell you.
I believe in Ian.
And and I could be wrong, but it always has kind of a bit of burnt caramel on the end.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
and a little bit of bitter, like a coffee bitter on the end as well. And it's always really round up front. And not a lot of the pumpkin stouts or even pumpkin beers are quite like that.
When we do the reveal of the beverage of mystery, I often say, this is the part of the show we call, is that a beverage of mystery in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me? Well, I in this case, I don't think I could get quite that happy because it's a big bomber of St. Arnold Pumpkin Ale. Yeah, I think you guys would have called foul on that pretty quickly. It is Pumpkinator, which is the Imperial Pumpkin Stout. We've, of course, had this on the show, both as a beer that we've tried and tasted. We've also had it as when we did pumpkin
St.
pumpkin
Arnold
beer.
Pumpkinator is a Houston institution.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it had days where people would line up for it when it was released.
That's right.
And then they started releasing so much of it that you can buy it sometimes into the next year,
and sometimes
which is fine.
Sometimes you can buy it in like August when it comes out.
That's right. Just in time for Halloween.
But yeah, we're just past Halloween, headed toward Thanksgiving. I thought it'd be a perfect time.
FYI, last week I bought my first Christmas ale for the year.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well, I have one too. I'm going to bring it on the show once we get into December. But I got the this year's Christmas ale from Prairie Artisan Ales
Nice.
for us to try. So we'll look forward to it. It has little bitty
Yeah,
samples.
Pumpkinator is one of those fun things too. If you take it and you store it,
Yeah.
put it in your refrigerator and wait a year.
I was going to ask if this was aged. That was going to be my guess.
This was bought this year. Yeah.
Yeah, this is 2024. But if you age it a year to 2 years, it mellows a little bit and becomes something a little more special. Once you get past that, it gets a little soy saucy. Pretty quick,
right. You don't want to do more than about a year.
I've had this up to like 7 years old. It gets real soy saucy real quick.
Well, I will just say one of the reasons that I thought I'd bring this on for Beverage of Mystery, and it was interesting that you nailed it, because this was one of the top ones when we did the pumpkin ale blind taste test. This was one tasting totally blind that came out at or near the top for almost everybody that was trying it. So it's not just being a homer from our
that
hometown.
Shipyard one too. The Shipyard one that tasted like the crust of the pumpkin.
Right. So I've lived up in New England, and that Shipyard one is the one that has the headless, on the can. It has the headless horseman with the pumpkin. Yeah, and that is just an absolute freakishly good pumpkin ale.
Yeah.
And I will tell you from living up there, when that comes out, it's like a frenzy. People
and it's like pumpkin spice and the pie crust. It's so good.
Interesting. St. Arnold's does such a good job. My wife and I actually just did a root beer blind, and we both loved the St. Arnold's root beer, which I still think is the best root beer. And it did play out that way. I think we did 6 different root beers. I went to Specs and I grabbed all the craft root beers that I could.
Nice.
That's so cool.
And we blinded them, and we both unanimously liked the St.
That's
Arnold's.
the one, huh?
I love that. Well, St. Arnold, for those, obviously we're based in Houston. We're heard all over the place. We're based in Houston. And we have trouble not referencing them all the time because they're just that good. And they're the oldest craft brewery in the state.
They're a historic brewery because of that, too.
Right.
They were the first.
And they were voted Mid-Size Brewer of the Year, I believe, in the Great American Beer Awards about 4 or 5 years ago. So, yeah, these guys have achieved plenty of recognition, and they just make consistently good beers across their entire lineup. I don't think there is a St. Arnold beer that I've had that I didn't like.
And their swag is the best swag, too. I mean, look at this label. It's amazing.
Yeah. So for those of you who are not from Texas, if you want to try some St. Arnold, send me some beers from your home state, and I will reciprocate and send you some St. Arnold's and some other Houston goodies.
And St. Arnold's one of those too. It's very rare that I buy their core brands or core line. I mean, And it's not because I don't like it. It tastes fine, but I love all of their seasonals. Every time I have one seasonal, I'm just waiting for the next one too.
Absolutely love it. All right, well, let's move on forward then, since you guys were very good at identifying this, and I'm not surprised. But I thought, so often I bring in beverages of mystery that we find to be almost undrinkable. I thought I'd give everybody a week off from that and bring in something that I was pretty sure everybody was going to like. So,
not another craft cocktail today.
Yeah, I just not to get stuck on that, but why are craft cocktails in general so bad? Just in general, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's no good
walked
ones.
into that room and went, this is what we're looking for. Go ahead and run the bag.
There's something about bottling it, I think. I mean, if you go to a good bar and you ask for an old fashioned, it's good. If you go to Reserve 101, you ask for an old fashioned, you're gonna get. But if you put it in a can for whatever reason, whatever they have to add in there to make it something, it's not the same. It's like a fresh
it's the
fruit
freshness
versus
you lose that
frozen,
freshness. I mean, when you have fresh ingredients going in, it tastes different. I mean, if you let it incorporate, because I've been part of the Iron Bartender competition where we taste cocktails, and sometimes they batch them, and sometimes it's amazing, but it's a science to batch a cocktail properly.
Well, Roberto.
I was just going to say, our friend Roberto has brought in some bottled cocktails that he's put together, and they were amazing.
Yes.
So, but I think we were getting more freshness. We were getting probably a lower run.
He does. It is, and he does pride himself on the quality of the ingredients and the ingredients he uses. So
which is expensive. So when they batch it and it goes to mass production, it's just not going to have that quality.
Right. People aren't going to pay $7 a can for a craft cocktail.
Yeah.
Although I would if it was good, because if you went to a bar and ordered a cocktail and it was $7, you wouldn't bat an eye.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's also a piece of it
cheap.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I think there's also a piece of it that in order to be able to sell it in states like Texas, where you want to sell it at a grocery store, potentially, you have to use a different type of spirit.
Right. So in a lot of cases, it's a malt beverage.
Yeah, it turns
too.
into that malt beverage version like we had the other day that was okay, but still it's a
and
malt
there's
beverage.
things like the Cayman Jack margaritas we had that are malt beverages. Those are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
But not everything seems to translate.
No.
And to me, it all tastes like Zima.
What's wrong with Zima?
Well, Jolly Rancher.
Nothing for about 3 months, and then it just disappeared from the face of the earth.
Yeah.
I love that someone was like, "Yeah,
Making
we're
fun of
bringing
our
it back,"
young
and
days.
everyone was like, "Yeah," and then they tried it and they were like, "No."
That's because Smirnoff Ice kind of took over, and the whole icing
It
people
did.
thing.
Right.
Ice
The whole
thing.
ice
It's basically
thing,
the
yeah.
same stuff.
And remember when there was ice for all the beers too?
Oh,
There
yeah,
was
Bud
Bud Light
Ice.
ice.
Yeah, with
And
the little
like-
penguin.
Whatever happened to that? And can you still get?
And what was different about it? I don't know. I didn't
I'm not
drink
sure.
any of it.
It was part of the way it was made, I guess. Ice was
Cold
added
water.
at a different point in the.
Remember when
process?
everything had to be clear?
Yes.
Oh yeah, Crystal Pepsi. That was a huge success.
Well, that's happening in
Clearly
tequila
Canadian.
right now.
Crystal
Crystal-
Oh yeah,
the
and
Crystal-
I'm not necessarily a fan of as a tequila lover. I'm not necessarily a fan of the Crystalinos.
It adds nothing.
Some of them are good, but yeah, it's like what I love about tequila.
Here's the thing: if it's good as a Cristalino, what would it have tasted like if you didn't filter it?
Well, exactly. And I'm a fan of, I really like añejo tequilas because they've had more time in a barrel and they've taken on some of the characteristics of whatever was in that barrel. And so you're going to get more of the vanillas and the maples and those
But
things
you're
to
more
me.
sophisticated. Most of these products are made for the mass market. They don't want to taste anything.
Yeah,
You know,
you're right.
They want to
called
drink their
vodka.
tequila
That's
and
why
just have it go
vodka
down.
is so popular. We'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. Welcome back as we are excited about our special guest today from the Whiskey Social, Dominic and Todd. Notice how I conveniently avoided saying your last names because I've already forgotten pronunciations and I'll screw them up. But anyway, these guys are from the Whiskey Social. We've been, both have been huge fans of the Social for many years and talk about how, and we've been
Best whiskey event.
best whiskey event, best spirits event, I think, that we've been to. And we've been to them not only just here in our hometown, but in other places around the country. And this one to us is just the gold standard of how these things are supposed to go. And I am excited about this year's event and really excited about just sitting out in that covered area, smoking a cigar with you.
It's so nice.
And just, tasting whiskeys and it's
The
so
best
good.
weather. November.
Yeah,
in November in Houston.
Absolutely, it's going to be great. So we're super excited and looking forward to it.
And now it's time for another Smoking and Toasting Drinking Fact.
Still brings a smile to my face, that fanfare every time. That is like the greatest. All right, our drinking fact this week. Remember, these are all things that we have verified to be true. The drinking facts. So these are not made up. This is not comedy. This is fact. Although
Not
sometimes
drinking fiction.
sometimes fact is funnier than fiction. Is the way it often goes. Our drinking fact for today: if you are under the age of 21 and you live in Missouri, be careful taking out the trash.
Oh.
In this U.S. state, you can be charged for illegal possession of alcohol without even being breathalyzed when taking out empty alcohol bottles and cans in your garbage bag.
If they're empty, how are you?
Just,
Because you surely drank them all.
yeah, of course you did. I guess that's the implication.
I don't understand. Like how if it's empty though, there's no alcohol left in them. And stop calling me Shirley.
It reminds me of when we first started the company here, the company that owns Smoking and Toasting and a number of other ventures. I started it with a business partner who's been on the show before, Pat Fant. In fact, he'll be back on our pipe show when we do it a little later in the year. But one of the things we used to love to do, we'd come up here, some of the employees would come up here and work like on the weekends or we were working on a special project. And of course, we'd bring, liquor and bottles of wine and beers and stuff. And then when we were done, we would always take them and put the empties in his trash can by his desk, just so the cleaning crew that comes through would be like, "Ooh, man, this guy's got a problem," So it's kind of like that. But yeah, apparently in Missouri, you can be charged with underage drinking, even if you haven't had anything to drink, without being breathalyzed, just from taking out the trash.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
I want to know what happened to cause that.
Yeah, right. There's a story
Some
behind
kid
that.
was carrying about 2 big bags of beer cans outside in the cop solid.
yeah. Well, you can do like a lot of people that drink in excess and just not take out the trash. Just let the beer cans stack
let 'em
up
stack,
in your house, But
how about don't use clear garbage bags?
yeah, there's a good idea. Use the black ones like you use for raking leaves.
Yeah, right. I feel like there's loopholes to this law, but
Yeah.
I mean, that's an outrageous law.
Yeah, and I don't know whether it's enforced or not, but it is on the books. So
And what else do you have kids for if not to take the garbage out, right? Like,
exactly. Oh man, my parents never took out a bag of garbage my entire time I was growing up.
Maybe
Never.
there were kids
Take
taking
out
the
the
last
garbage
sip.
and don't get caught.
Yeah, and remember when you were a kid, if you were supposed to put the garbage out on trash day and you forgot? Oh, that was a bad week at my house.
Yeah.
Not only because of what the garage would smell like for the next several days, but also because I'd be like hiding from my dad for the rest of the time. Ian, I suppose that you have had the opportunity to smoke something interesting this week, and I thought I would ask you about
I
it.
sat on my patio yesterday evening, and I pulled out a cigar that I bought it when we were at Stogie's, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was on the recommendation of one of the gentlemen there, the Luciano the Dreamer. This is from Ace Prime Cigars.
Oh, nice.
This is the Lancero 7.5 inches by 38 ring gauge with the Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan and Peru for the filler. The appearance on this milk chocolate brown wrapper, oily, leathery, somewhat irregular with some veins, single band. The pre-light sniff on this, I got gentle tobacco, barnyard fermented hay, raisin, and a little bit of tea leaf on the pre-light draw. I used a cutter. I got a light draw. Sorry, I have my finger on it now. I was trying to edit. I had a light draw on it, and back to where I was. Light draw, sweet coca, a little bit of cereal, like breakfast cereal kind of thing, and raisin. The initial light on is nutty with a Nicaraguan pepper breeze. Sweet on the lips, roasted coffee bean, cayenne and fermented hay, retrohale sweet and creamy coffee, milk chocolate, and a touch of pepper on there. The first third, this nutty and sweet coffee, creamy pepper backbone, and a kick of cayenne that lingers, underlying nuttiness. I keep doing that. It keeps going into this. Underlying nuttiness. And chocolate thread throughout, retrohale, sweet and creamy coffee, cocoa and powder, and toasted nuts, flaky ash, good burn. proposed pairing on this. Well, I was having an Oktoberfest when I started it, and it was pretty nice.
Yeah, I bet that works.
But I went in and did the whiskey sniff, and the Balvenie 15 single barrel sherry cask won.
Oh, wow.
It went with this so well.
That's a winning whiskey.
Yeah,
just
it's
in
so
general,
good
so.
anyway, right? And I did the bottle kill. You'll see it in the picture right over here, or here. The second third on the sweet and nutty cedar with a meaty bullion note, slightly tart note on the finish, underlying raisin and fermented hay with a kiss of brown sugar. Retrohale sweet and salty toast with hints of cayenne and black pepper. Flaky ash, uneven burn. The last third of this medium body, bits of cocoa and cedar weave throughout. Retrohale's sweet and salty toast, cayenne and pepper. Flaky ash, good burn. Price to quality, $4. It was $15. It was a lot.
Oh, yeah. See, that's the thing. It can be really good, but if it's $15, it needs to be more than just really good.
Yeah, it was really good, but $15 was a lot.
Yeah. That's
And that was the
Totally
only
with you.
disappointing part of it.
Totally with you. All right, we got to take a break. I'll tell you about my cigar when we come back. And it starts getting really interesting in the next segment because we start tasting some whiskeys as well as our first beer. We'll be right back at Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. We're on show number 405, and I love that sound. We were just talking a little bit when we were in between the segments here in the studio about, tasting notes and pulling different notes out of, whether it's cigars or whiskey. And we were talking about, you mentioned the concept of what do you call it? A tasting wheel?
A tasting wheel, flavor wheel.
Yeah.
And it exists for most spirits. If you just Google, whiskey or bourbon tasting wheel,
And
you'll
can
get
find-
lots of options. Yeah.
And so that wheel will basically show you different options for things that you might detect, notes that you might detect in the whiskey. I always say that if you're trying to develop your palate in terms of being able to identify things, whether it's spirits or cigars or beer, one of the things I recommend is to go find a review online of that particular thing and take a look at what the reviewer got. And then when you light up the cigar or you sip the spirit or whatever, see if you can identify the same things that they talk about. By the way, you won't always get the exact same thing because I usually will go, when I'm putting together my review of cigars, for example, I'll usually go online and look at some other reviews if only just to make sure I've got like the tobacco right that's in the cigar or something like that. And if I read through it, I'm not always getting what the other reviewers are getting. So I'll tell you what I got, and they maybe have a more sophisticated palate than I do, and maybe they can pull out other things. I've seen some where I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. They are not pulling out a note of the lychee nut that's grown only on the north side of a hill in Bulgaria. I mean, that's just you're not doing that, okay? You may think you're doing it, but you're not. But my cigar that I tried this week, it was the Bolivar Gran Republic Rothschild, which is the small Robusto. And Bolivar cigars, which you're going to be hearing more about on today's show, are a tribute to the revolutionary life of Simon Bolivar, the liberator of much of South America. The Bolivar cigar that I'm talking about today, the Gran Republic Rothschild, which is labeled a Robusto, but it's more like what I consider a Rothschild size, a very small Robusto. It's 4.5 by 50. This cigar was released last year, and although Bolivar is a well-known Cuban brand, the non-Cuban Bolivars have had a tendency to fly a little bit under the radar here in the United States. The Bolivar Gran Republic was rolled in Honduras using an Ecuadorian Habano wrapper, layered over a binder of Brazilian, I always mispronounce this word, so I'm going to try to get it right, Arapiraca tobacco, and fillers from Colombia, Brazil, and Nicaragua. By the way, I can't pronounce Arapiraca tobacco, but it's really a rich and very rewarding kind of tobacco.
As the Bolivar, that's the one. Is that the one with the yellow and
it's got
gray?
the guy on it, the guy's face that looks like a bust in the Hall of Presidents or something. And by the way, all of the countries whose tobacco is in the blend of the cigar represent all different countries that Simon Bolivar liberated, thus the name Gran Republica, which is where it comes from. Cedar and sweetness were the primary notes I picked up on the pre-light sniff, and you can see, by the way, the cigar right up here if you're watching the video of the show. Cold draw added faint notes of hay and oats. I used a punch because I was afraid my V-cutter would take out about half of this cigar because it's not a big cigar, and so I lit the Bolivar with a torch. There was no pepper blast, Nicaraguan or otherwise, although once the cigar kind of settled in, there was an underlying pepper note, along with baked bread and a mild cedar note on the finish. Burn was decent, and I got large mouthfuls of thick, chewy smoke. The second third began to reveal a little more depth and some earthy and chocolate notes that are consistent with many of my favorite Nicaraguan blends. I thought I picked up a hint of hazelnut, and the cigar established itself as being medium-bodied. Final third, more earth and chocolate, tasting more like a Nicaraguan cigar at this point, with hints of cinnamon and baking spices, pepper on the retrohale, and strength up to medium plus by the final third.
It sounded pretty good.
No complaints about construction, excellent draw, and near perfect burn. Overall, I really enjoyed this short but sweet smoke. Suggested pairing, maybe a Woodford Reserve or something with a nice cinnamon note like Heaven's Door Straight Bourbon. I still have a little of that left, and when I want something cinnamony, I often go there. If you can find a bottle of Blanton's that's not $799, that would work too, I think. As best as I remember from before the Blanton's, scarcity plague infected the planet. Anyway, coming in at around $8, which might seem a little pricey for a cigar this size, but I've seen other Rothschilds at $12 or even more, so maybe I'm just becoming a cheap bastard in my old age. But at $8, a solid 5 price to quality. But you may want to grab some now if this sounds appealing to you. Details later in the show on what's happening with the Scandinavian Tobacco Company and what they are doing with the Bolivar line. So be sure and check it out. And guys, we may have gone through this the last time you were on the show, but our price to quality is a scale of 1 to 10, but a 5 means you get exactly what you paid for. So if I'm saying this is an $8 cigar and I give it a 5, it was worth the $8. If I give it more than that, it'd been like this really overperformed its price point. And Ian at a 4, it wasn't because he didn't like the cigar.
Yeah.
It's because it was $15.
Yeah, that $15 for a Lancero, and Lanceros tend to be a few dollars more, but this one I thought at that price point, there's other cigars that I enjoy.
Right. That you would enjoy more at that price point.
Right.
Imagine
100%.
if we use that scale in bourbon. What it would look like. It would not look good for a lot of the most
Oh
popular
no!
brands.
You'd
price to
have
quality
your Buffalo Traces
gets
doing
brutal.
really, really well, and then some of those really expensive ones, maybe not so much. We okay, Terry? I saw you standing. Okay, cool. So we've got a beer poured already, and it's party time. Ian, what
It's
do we
party
got here?
time. Party time. Excellent.
A few of us got that. Terry, I know, got it.
Oh yeah, I was
showing-
watching that this weekend. You
I was
get-
showing my
Nice.
age. This is.
I've already seen the Saturday night movie twice. I saw it again this weekend in the
Oh, see, I
theater.
haven't watched
See,
it.
that is so you.
It is
I
excellent.
just want to say
it
it's so
it
you.
is so good. I went and saw it again. Yes.
So this is Bavarian-Style Pilsner from Wayfinder.
Yeah, we've had Wayfinder beers on the program before, and I think they've
I
been
love this. I
they've
love
mostly
this.
been
It says
IPAs, though.
Mysteriously delicious beer.
Yeah. So this is from Wayfinder Beer, which is out of Portland, Oregon. It's a Bavarian-style Pilsner.
It also says, "Save the Earth. It's the only planet we have with beer."
Mhm.
So,
That is-
that's a solid reason, right?
Noted.
It also comes with instructions: 1, open, and 2, drink. So they're being very thorough.
I'm glad they've done this. I think this is excellent.
This
What do
tastes
you
like
think
really
of
good,
that?
champagne
actually.
and beers.
It's nice and crispy. I expected a little more maltiness when they say the Bavarian, but it's nice and crispy too.
But it's got that. I don't know what to call it. It's got some of that sharpness that Bavarian beers seem to have. You know what I'm talking about? It's like right in the front of the
it's
palate.
a bright flavor that that you almost don't expect all the time, but
Mm.
it's very nice. I like the carbonation in it is not too much.
Right.
So it's a little lighter carbonated.
And sometimes on a lager or a pilsner, you will find that I think it's a little
they can be
over-carbonated
overcarb a
sometimes.
little bit, yeah.
And this one is
No, this one
is
comes across really nice.
right in the pocket there. So Wayfinder again out of Portland,
Are you a
Oregon.
big fan of beer?
Yeah. From time to time, we maybe have one too many, but yeah, all good.
There's that.
Always a big fan at the point of drinking.
At the point of drinking, right?
Sometimes next day, not so much.
I'm a fan of free beer.
Yeah.
There are lots of classifications. Free beer, cold beer,
Right.
wet beer.
I'm a fan of all those
All of them.
particular classifications for sure. Guys, you brought some whiskeys for us to sample as we talk a little bit about the Whiskey Social. So I'll let you pour while we just mention that, again, Ian and I have been to this particular whiskey event a number of years, a number of times, and we've always found it to be the best of any of these kind of events that we have gone to. And I think part of it is because of the number of whiskeys and even a few other spirits that are there. But part of it's just the way the whole thing kind of
flow
happens.
of it is really nice. Like from coming in, even the line. I got to be honest. Even standing in line isn't so bad because like everyone's happy and excited to go in, and then once you get in, the way it flows, you know, coming down that foyer, that entry room. By the time you get into where it opens up, it's just like this beautiful presentation that just opens up, and you go, "Wow!"
It's like Willy Wonka for whiskey. You walk in, it's just a wonderland.
Absolutely. and I'll tell you my strategy for the Whiskey Social. I try to get there early so I can get into the room and make a pass around, try to pick up some things that I want to sample early enough, and then when it starts to get more full, because I'm a little crowd phobic, so when it starts to get a little more full, then I make my way out to the cigar tent, which is less crowded, bring a sample that with me, and just it's time to light up and sit back and enjoy. And then towards the end, when it starts to thin out a little bit, I go back in for another pass. But
it's like a professional, one of those people that goes to Disney.
Oh
three
yeah,
times
that
a year,
totally has the plan. Okay, here's the ride you go to first, then you jump across the park and do this.
Well, so here's the other strategy too. You guys have how many whiskeys how many expressions are you guys having there?
We usually say 350 plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. And people think, people look at what's the ticket price? The basic ticket price is
General admission is 90.
90. Okay, so let's just say $100 a ticket, right? You name one place where you can go in and ostensibly try 350 expressions,
Right. I can go
for
drop
$100.
I can go drop $100 at Reserve 101, and I may have a nice evening, but it's not going to be.
Oh yeah, you can drop that. You can drop that at 101 in 45 minutes.
And look, you should not be sampling 350.
No,
different. I just wanna
and you
say
were talking about your strategy. Like what I do
Sounds like a
is
challenge.
what I do a lot of times is I pretty much ignore all the ones that I've had before. Like
Right.
I'm going to go in there and shoot for like what's new, what's different.
What have I
what's
not
That's
interesting.
the way to do it.
Yeah.
And because if you go through and you're like, hey, I like this one, I'll do a sample of that, and I like this one, I'll do a sample of that. By the time you get to the new thing, you're already walking at about 45 degrees.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's why we like bringing in new brands.
Yeah.
It's not all about the big brands. People want to see those brands, but and they have exciting products as well and new products. But I
Right.
like bringing in the new guys that have something different.
And I also love that you'll have like usually some rums or tequilas
Yep.
as well, just to mix it up. My wife will drink whiskey, but she's a much bigger fan of rum and tequila,
Yeah.
and so she finds enough that she really, really likes there that she's excited for it every year too. So it's really a cool event. And tell me about the website, and can people buy tickets on the website?
Yeah.
Is that the easiest way?
HoustonWhiskeySocial.com.
Okay.
Nice and simple. And yes, you can link out there. You click on the click more button right on that front page, and it takes you to the tickets.
Good. And, just wanted to mention, we've said this every year that we've talked about the social, but this is a great event for people who do not live in Houston. This is a good time to come to town.
Yeah, this is a destination event.
Yeah. And what's the date? Because this is coming up, right? It's next week.
November 16th, Saturday, November 16th.
Okay. So you can find out more at HoustonWhiskeySocial.com. But the Whiskey Social, it's a big deal. We love it every year.
Are there still VIP tickets left?
There are a select number left. I think we're getting close to
And
the
you
end
have
of that, but yeah.
some other tickets, like is it a Pappy tasting?
Yep. So those are sold out. Those
sell out.
That's
like almost
concert tickets.
instantly.
You have to wait. You have to have your credit card ready and get in there the first couple hours. So.
I wanted to do the Pappy tasting with Taylor Swift, but it was sold out way too fast. So
That's sold out before they even created the concept.
But the good thing is, though, we get a lot of people asking about the Pappy tickets, and the Buffalo Trace Antique Collection also is the other class that we do. But
No.
we don't kill those bottles in the class. We take those out. So if you look for us in the venue,
Yes.
you've probably
We
seen
may be
pictures of Chris Hart.
periodically pouring
right.
them.
Okay.
Yes.
So this was actually going to be one of my questions, because I know
you're looking for.
I know Chris is becoming less involved in the social. Will he have the bottle of Pappy this year, or will it be one of you guys?
That's a good question.
We haven't figured that out
So-
yet,
We haven't thought about that
this
yet.
when you guys mentioned, it's like Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Chris up on the staircase with a bottle in each hand, coming down with a big smile.
Yeah, looking kind of like Johnny Depp in that remake of Wonka. And there's another Wonka remake coming now,
But
too.
maybe Chris
They've already made one. It's like the earlier
maybe
days
you
of
guys.
them.
Yeah, I've
Oh,
seen that one. Actually, it's
Timothy
pretty good.
Chalamet.
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah. Well, that's the
Who is
coolest.
now
Yeah, so
going to
maybe
be Bob
you
Dylan.
guys. So if you guys are interested in going, you might want to watch the video so you know what these guys look like. So
Yeah, come find
Yeah,
us. I
let's
mean,
find out.
I think I will say we
Right now, spotlight on him.
to just echo what you guys are saying. I think if we think about the quality to price ratio, like we try to be at a 10 for the event, right? Like
Yeah,
in terms of
yeah.
what
Yeah.
you know, we intentionally try to keep the tickets affordable, and like you said, right? Like for
And you guys are
under $100.
you guys are having food there.
There'll be food. There's an outdoor cigar lounge, like you said,
the outdoor
and so
cigar
you know we take over the whole venue and try to have it be, like you said, interests and other
guys found
spirits
a
as well.
castle.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just pretty amazing.
just
to pull
outside
up
of
on a
Houston.
castle.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre too because you're driving out there. You're kind of like there's some fields. There's a rugby field, right? And then there's some nothing, and then you're in a neighborhood, and then a castle pops up.
Yeah.
You're like,
We
what?
love
And you're
the
like, you're
venue.
here.
Houston
There
has
you
no zoning.
arrived. Yeah, exactly. So while we taste this first spirit that you guys have poured, and before you tell me about it, I just want to back up to something I believe I heard Terry say. Did you tell me that there's something happening where Bob Dylan is going to play Willy Wonka?
So in front of the Saturday night movie, I saw the preview for Timothy Chalamet is going to be Bob Dylan in the new Bob Dylan
Yeah.
story.
Okay, got it. I thought maybe you were saying Bob Dylan was going to play Willy Wonka, and how does it taste? I just was trying to imagine that, and I think I would honestly pay.
I think that
for
would be
tickets
good.
to-
I'm there if he does
Yeah.
that.
A classic bit of comedy is when Bob Dylan and Boomhauer are having a conversation.
Oh yeah.
You're-
Well, I
you're
mean,
right
come
about
on.
that.
Think about this: Bob Dylan and Tom Petty having a conversation already.
Oh,
that
my
was
God.
the Wilburys was probably fun enough.
Yeah, because Petty was always stoned.
Even George
So-
Harrison with his voice,
Yeah.
the three of them together, it's got to be interesting.
Throw in
Yeah,
Orbison,
so-
and there you go.
It's like Harrison's like, you guys leave my wife alone. I don't know where that came from. I'm sorry. Let's talk about this whiskey
I
before we
got
run
it.
out of. But Terry got it. Yeah.
first one.
This is
I should
beautiful.
have known.
Wow.
Starting with
This is-
Scotch.
This is
This is one of the most celebrated things. Ian, you've raved about this in the past.
So
No wonder I love
we
it
had
so much.
You're talking about
picturing his face and
Well, we're going to have to take that to the next segment here in a second.
All right, maybe
Anyway,
during the break, Ian.
yeah,
will-
during the break. But we when we found out this was coming out, my wife immediately was wanting a bottle, so I went and bought one. I think I got it for her birthday,
yeah.
and it didn't last long at the house. Once it was open, it was like,
That seems to be a theme for whiskey at your house.
well, certain whiskeys,
Yeah. All right. Well, this is the Glenmorangie, A Tale of Cake.
Yeah.
We will talk more about this tale when we return. Plus, there's more whiskey and beer to taste. It's going to be an interesting show, folks. What's left
And
of
Dan Crowell, that's the name of it.
Dan Crowell. All right, we'll
That's
talk
what I was
about
trying to think.
we'll talk about Dan too when we come back.
I love
It's
that guy.
Smoking and toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. And at the moment, it's about let them eat cake. Right? A taste of cake.
So I can say it now without stumbling all the way through it. Last time when we spoke with Dan Crowell, not this very past time, but the time before that, this I think was just about to hit the shelves and he didn't have one.
Oh yeah.
But when we had Mr. Bill on the time before that, he was talking about developing this, and my wife was so incredibly interested. She's 100% wanted this as soon as it came out, and it wasn't heartbreakingly expensive. I think it was $70 ish. Is that right, or 80?
Yeah, something like that.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. And man, this is one of those price to qualities where even at that price point, it's still $5 or above. It's
And I'll say this: I've never had a taste of any Glenmorangie that wasn't amazing. Just some of them are more interesting and different than others.
yeah.
And,
La Santa is on my shelf at all times. Like that's a must-have.
and I have that as well. And Terry continues to talk about
I do.
the bottle of the 10 year that he took home.
it's
It's become one of
great.
his absolute favorites.
I even saw it on Frasier, the new Frasier episodes. That's what he was drinking.
I love that. I love when you see something that you recognize on. Like I remember watching Ray Donovan. They were always having Michters. Remember that?
Oh yeah.
It's just cool to see stuff that you recognize on there. Some of it might be product placement, but I seriously doubt Glenmorangie is paying for product placement on Frasier.
The way they did it, it didn't look like it at all. It's just that he had already made several comments about being, wanting the higher end scotches, and so they weren't going to show him with just a bottle of.
We were just
Jack or
having a
something.
conversation about Scotch and how why is it a sophisticated spirit, and the fact that it's on Frasier, they chose Scotch. What other spirit could it have been?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Maybe a cognac. Maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, and we're going to
Speaking
try
of
a cognac next.
Oh, I love the scrunchy sound.
That was good. So while he pours that, let me ask a question. Anybody here still have Halloween candy at their house?
A little,
Yes.
sure. The
I
kids-
was so
we got a lot.
disappointed. I live in a high-rise downtown, and they did this thing. It's like, put a sign on your door if you have candy to give out, and kids, in the area and in the building can come up and know that you have candy. So we put the sign on the door. My wife bought this huge, assorted, fun-sized candy bag. We had one trick-or-treater. I was so bummed.
Oh man.
So we have all this candy left over, and so as a result of that,
If you're smart,
yeah,
like if you're real smart, you buy candy you don't like.
right,
But I didn't do that.
yeah.
but-
Well. So if you've got some left over, let me walk you through this. This is a pairing guide. The best craft beer and leftover Halloween candy pairings. All right. Got Tootsie Rolls. Pair them with Arrogant Bastard Ale from Stone.
Nice.
Great beers, classic candies. Yep, that's and by the way, Arrogant Bastard. I know Stone's been bought by a much larger company this way, but that beer is still so freaking delicious. Candy corn. Go with Hefeweizens. Hefeweizens have been making a comeback of
Those
late.
are two things I never reach for.
Yeah.
I've never
Would
thought
not
of
have
pairing
put
those.
together.
Yes.
Well, if you went trick-or-treating, you probably got some candy corn from somebody because people always give it out, right?
Well, because they got it last year and they don't know how to get rid of it.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I don't think they actually still make candy corn.
Candy corn
I
is
think it
neither
just
created
keeps
nor
getting
destroyed.
shuffled.
Yeah,
it's just the same as last year. It's the same candy corn. You're
Unless
right.
you're my son who needed to take something to school for the 50th day of school.
Yeah.
He wanted to
50th,
take
yes,
50
you
or
may
something.
do
We're
that.
like, nobody's going to do anything with these candy corns, which my wife got from somebody. So he took 50 candy corns to school. And then came home and my wife texted me and said, your son did something interesting. You might want to talk to him. I'm like, what are you talking about? So apparently his teacher had told him, well, if you brought food to school as part of it, you can eat them. Homie ate 50 candy corns before he came home and was just jacked up on sugar. And she was like,
my God, that's great.
oh, it's
That's
terrible.
great.
Candy
So
corn
apparently
it's
only
good
my
when-
son will eat them.
Yeah, it's good when it's the only thing you have in school and they allow you to eat the candy. That's
Sure,
what it is.
sure. Well,
Sorry, I just have this picture of like my dog zooming through the living room.
That's it.
When she's got the zoomies, It's like,
the thing about candy corn, though, that is the most disgusting is when you get it from somebody at Halloween and it's not in a bag. Like, it's just scattered loosely across your Halloween basket.
last year's candy corn.
Yeah,
How many
exactly.
hands have been in?
Yeah. What about Skittles? You got any Skittles left over?
Skittles are oddly good.
Yeah, have them with a lambic, according to this article from American.
I think they're stretching that one a little bit, but okay.
Lambics pair best with tart and fruity candy like Skittles. But they say sweet tarts and Jolly Ranchers will also do in a crunch.
Yeah.
For
What
me,
about
if
those
I'm
little
drinking a
Smarties? I bet
lambic,
those are good.
for me, if I'm drinking a lambic,
Smarties.
there has been a crunch. I'm already out of better beers.
Something's happened, huh?
And finally, if you've got
Yep.
peanut M&Ms, go with a Russian Imperial Stout, they say. If you're a seasoned craft beer and candy enthusiast, you already know that complimenting a serious Russian Imperial Stout enjoyed with fresh peanut M&Ms is a marriage made in
the
heaven.
stout particularly with the peanut, because you get that coffee and you get the bitter from the stout, and that
Right.
peanut marries right up with it, and the chocolate just cuts the bitterness out. It's so good.
Wonderful. Speaking of so good,
This smells divine.
we're
by the
actually
way.
trying not a whiskey here, but a cognac. Is that right?
Yes, and this is we tried to bring examples of spirits from our sponsors that will be there, and this is one of them.
I love that you did that because you could bring some great like rare stuff, and that'd be awesome to taste, but it wouldn't have anything to do with the actual social. So, so this is someone who will be at the social.
So what you're saying is you didn't Chris Hart us. You can actually buy each one of these things.
Right.
Well, I won't go as far as you can buy it. You might be able to find this. This came out last year at Specs. And it's from Pierre Ferrand.
Yeah,
and
which means Docs will be there.
He will.
I'm
Yes.
still coming.
Will his cutout still be over the like last year?
Have you tried this?
This
Holy
is a
cow.
single barrel. So they
Amazing.
just started releasing these single barrels
Wow.
2 years ago. This is the second release.
That is just sublime.
10-year-old.
It just like dances on your palate, you know?
You want to talk about a sophisticated drink? This is so good. It's so buttery right up front. Just like I hate to use the word, but I got to. It's incredibly smooth. How about it's velvety? It's
There you go.
Velvety,
silky.
yeah. Silky
It's
is good.
incredible.
Great with a cigar also.
And you will have this at the social?
I don't think this one, but Ferrand will be there, and,
Ferrand will be
Doc's
there.
always brings lots of cool stuff.
Yeah,
so
he
there's
really
going to be
does.
great cognac there.
Moet Hennessy
Love
will be there with Glenmorangie and others. Yeah.
Love it. We're looking forward to it. When we got to take a break, and there's more to taste and more to talk about, including
Finish on this.
next hour. Little drinking news
It's
coming up
almost
for
like
you.
a donut kind of quality to the finish on
So
this. As
fruity.
weird as that sounds.
We'll be right back. And I remember in the immortal words of Homer, donuts.
I thought you were going to say.
Is there anything they can't do?
I thought you were going to say.
Donuts.
That too. Welcome back. It is Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer,
My timing's a little off.
fine spirits, and hand rolled cigars. We I just wanted to mention a very interesting gentleman in the world of music passed away this last week.
I know.
And I just wanted to mention and honor him on the show, even though we talk about music occasionally. But this one I think is particularly relevant. Quincy Jones
Yes.
passed away.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I mean, the guy was like, he was a jazz master. He wrote orchestrations. He did his own music. He produced some of the most influential albums of all time. You ever hear of Thriller? This guy, he was the real deal. And it was really cool too. I've seen a biography on him and a couple of things, and he's a really cool guy. But the reason I wanted to mention him, other than just to say he was a musical genius and he will be missed, is we often talk about how this program, Smoking and Toasting, is a good thing to put on like as sort of in the background if it's time for, like sexy time.
A little mood.
Little mood
talk
music.
in the background.
But if for whatever reason you cannot find an episode of Smoking and Toasting at the appropriate moment, then all you have to do is play The Secret Garden by Quincy Jones, because that is the ultimate. like, let's put it this way, guys. If she won't get down to business with you during The Secret Garden, it ain't going to happen.
There is no business.
There is no business to be gotten down to. So just anyway, we'll toast Quincy Jones here
Quincy
with our
Jones,
next
exactly.
Quincy Jones.
With our next-
The
Exactly.
grooviest album I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I'm going to say a few words here and you're like, really? It's weird. Is Quincy Jones
Yeah.
and Bill Cosby.
Okay, that's weird.
It is weird. This is
Especially in the context that I just gave of sexy time.
Apparently
Well-
there's Jello involved.
there's that.
Too soon.
Way too soon. Okay, all right, so Ian, you opened this Pandora's
so-
box. I'll let
But
you.
okay, so
I'll
this
let you
is
finish.
Quincy Jones when he was doing the music for the Bill Cosby Show.
Okay.
This is not the Cosby Show from the 80s and 90s. This is the Bill Cosby Show from the 70s.
Okay,
And they're doing
where
songs.
he's like a secret agent or something.
No, it was a variety show.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh.
Gotcha.
But they're doing songs on there, like one of them's called Groovy Gravy, and one of them's called Hickey Burr, and it is
Again,
literally
context.
it is
Yeah.
literally the grooviest album. Like, go buy it.
All right,
Well, you know what?
I will try it out.
In Groovy Gravy,
As
there's a
long as
guitar
n-
solo.
As long as none of the money goes to Bill Cosby, I'll buy it.
Well, I don't
If you would like to associate
I don't know that it is.
Quincy Jones with someone that has not gone to jail for drugging people, is
Well, don't bring up Michael Jackson.
he He actually has a daughter, Rashida Jones, who
Yes.
is in Parks and Rec and is in many movies
And
and
she's
everything.
awesome.
I didn't know
that was his
Inside
daughter.
Out. That's his daughter.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
Rashida Jones is his daughter.
Of The Office
cool.
also.
Yes,
right?
of The
Yeah.
Office. Exactly. That's her.
I just like to mention what we used to toast Quincy Jones was delicious. What are we drinking here, Ian?
Oh, so what we have here is Imperial cold side 100% dry hopped IPA from Magnify Brewing Company.
Magnify. And I don't believe we've had a
Made in
Magnify
New
beer.
Jersey.
I see that
On
New
the
Jersey on the side, and
Yeah.
I'm a New Jersey native, so cheers to that.
Wow,
There you
that's
go.
cool. That's cool.
Holy cow!
that's really
fruity,
good,
hoppy.
isn't it?
That's like Fruity Pebbles in a.
Yeah. It reminds me there's a brewery here in Houston that does a
beer called Fruity Pebbles, right?
Yeah, it's
Or
not
no?
called Fruity Pebbles, but it's really
It's
close to that.
something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Is that
Greater Heights.
Greater Heights. Great
Yeah.
Heights, yeah.
As a matter of fact, we'll be talking with Miss Abby coming up here on one of the shows in the very near future.
Abby, who's from Great Heights
Yes.
Brewing, and yeah, I'm trying to remember the name of that. I want to call it Fruity Pebbles, but
It's not
It is
it.
slightly
It's-
different from that. But it is like drinking Fruity Pebbles
Slightly
IPA.
less
This is-
copyrighted than
This
that.
is it. Even
Exactly.
has the cereal note following the Fruity Pebble
Uh-huh.
note on this.
Mhm.
This is pretty
Mm.
crazy.
So I guess the real challenge now is for someone who's an excellent, expert at Imperial Stouts to come up with a Count Chocula
There you
Imperial
go.
Stout. Because wouldn't that be
I
great?
feel like that had to have happened at some point.
Like
Yeah.
somebody had to have done
Yeah,
that, right?
because if we got Fruity Pebbles, they're not complete without an accompanying bowl of Count Chocula. So Count Chocula was
Then you have
awesome.
to have one that just tastes like the little freeze-dried marshmallows.
Yeah.
You know, you can buy those separately, right?
Like in Frosted Lucky Charms.
There's too much.
Just the marshmallows.
You can buy
yeah.
just the
Oh,
marshmallows.
yes.
So that seems like it would be overload of
Yeah,
some
that's too
sort.
much.
Yeah.
See, I was
I
a
don't
Cocoa
understand what
Pebbles
you mean
guy,
by
though,
too much.
not
Really?
Count Chocula.
I don't like marshmallows, but for some reason I like those.
Well,
Me too.
it's,
I don't know
it's-
how that makes
I know.
sense.
It's the freeze drying.
It's good to buy those and put them in your hot chocolate.
Yes,
Oh,
it absolutely
yes.
is. They expand.
That's a great
It's a
idea.
wonderful thing. No, this is a wonderful IPA. This again is from.
Shrinky dinks, but in the opposite side.
This is a really wonderful IPA, and this you even like this, and you're not the IPA guy,
this,
right?
This is delicious. This is almost like candy.
It's an Imperial IPA. They're from Fairfield, New Jersey, the brewery, Magnify Brewing, and I believe this is the first of their beers we've had on the show.
We've never had a Magnify that I know of.
I don't think so. And in 405 shows, that's
times a minimum of 3 beers per
right.
show.
Exactly. There's always at least 3.
I mean, that's
So-
Yeah.
I think it doesn't have that nice, that really long hoppy aftertaste, which is nice to me.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't have the any resinous kind of or bitter
Not at all.
aftertaste. Like
the
that
aftertaste is cereal.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like the milk that is left over after the Fruity Pebbles are all gone.
Kind of. Yeah.
Which is delicious, by the way. You don't leave that milk in the bowl and put it in the sink.
No, sir.
You
The hop
drink
is
that.
on the mid palate, but it immediately gets a little
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
And
But it's an Imperial, so it's hard to imagine though that this is, a bigger IPA and doesn't have any of that, hop resin vibe to it because
Doesn't say
I don't think
anything
it's-
about the ABV on it.
It does say it's an Imperial, so
I'm going to guess this at probably 6 to 8.
I would guess that's
I'm
probably
going
right.
in for a little more.
Even regular IPAs can be 5 to 7. So, yes, I will take a little more because I need more to drink today. We don't have enough whiskey on the show. Speaking of whiskey, you guys have already poured us a next one, and is it the Bullet Rye that you've
It
set
is.
up on the stand there?
Yeah, speaking of a little bit more fruity, it's a Bullet 12-year rye, so a
There's
little bit more age on the
immediately,
rye.
like leather and tobacco right on top
Yeah.
of this.
I'm a big fan of rye, but this on the nose already, I know I'm going to love this.
But here's the thing about this one. This is a 12-year-old rye, which most people don't know exists. This,
I was going to
Bullet
say,
12.
is that a long aging time for a rye?
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
significantly longer, but it shows you what more age on something like a rye can do. A lot of the ryes are a bit younger, so the more age on it does some wild things, which I think
it's
are great.
way more
incredibly-
tobacco-y.
Yeah, tobacco and leather and brown sugary kind of sweet or turbinado sugar almost.
immediately-
Yeah.
Kind of sweet.
I immediately want to light a cigar when I taste
Oh,
this because this
this
is just
would be-
so wonderful with the cigar.
If something was made to go with a cigar, this right just tastes.
And the proof is right. It's not going to overpower the cigar.
Right.
It's 90 proof.
Right, but you know what? So far, one of my favorite whiskeys ever with a cigar is the cigar malt from the Dalmar.
It's so
but
good. Yeah,
I wonder if this wouldn't even be better.
this is yeah.
And I think these are one of the things that, like, you look at Bullet, all the shelfers they have and things like that. If you come and you go to their booth and you taste some things, like this would be, in my eyes, something you kind of go, that is not what I expected.
Right.
Right.
Let me go find this thing.
How acquirable is this? I might have made that word up, but
I think they release it annually.
Relatively. Dom introduced
gotta
me
watch
to it.
for it.
I didn't know it
Yeah.
existed, so I started looking, and it took a few months, and eventually it showed up. So
And what
it shows up, and it goes fairly quickly.
And what does this sell for
I
approximately?
want to say it was like 65 bucks. something
Not
like
even.
that, so-
I think it was like $57 plus tax or something.
I may have a
on.
new favorite rye, and
Yeah.
that's
yeah, great price point.
that's going to displace Angel's Envy, and that's
Ooh, that's the maple syrup bomb.
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
that's
Speaking
a-
of which,
that's a-
is something we're going to get into next.
Okay.
I took my Angel's Envy to the SNL premiere and drank it there.
I love it.
The
Oh,
little
did you have the
bottle.
little
The little
bottle?
bottle,
Oh,
yeah.
those are perfect for.
Those perfect.
So when we had Angel's Envy on, they left us these not airline size bottles, but just like
100
like
milliliter,
two
yeah.
drinks, like a
Yeah.
4 ounce or something.
Yeah.
perfect for taking to the movies.
It
My
was
wife, I
awesome.
brought that
It was
home. My
awesome.
wife immediately claimed it, but she was on a I'm not going to drink for 30 days.
Yeah.
And so it sat there on the table, and that was like when she was finally past her 30 days. That's immediately what you. She
I don't know if you guys know this, but about a half an hour before the show, I declared I wasn't going to drink for 30 minutes, and
you didn't achieve that.
I was successful. It was half an hour before the show.
oh,
Didn't drink for 30 minutes. You
So
got it.
yeah, so I did good.
Nice.
I'm
Well
going to
done.
expand that. Next time it's going to be 31 minutes.
you should also consider not breathing the liquid at some point.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
You know-
This is delicious.
Yeah.
It's
I
so
didn't know
good.
I liked rye until I started doing this show, and I have to say, rye has become one of the things that I've really enjoyed.
rye is obviously always spicier.
Yeah.
And I think it goes well with cigars in general. So it's a lot of my favorite, whiskeys in my bar are ryes. But
Yeah.
but wow, this is
I need to build up my rye shelf. The problem is my wife loves ryes.
so that it's harder to keep the shelf stocked.
I have a very quick story on rye. So we were talking to Fred No, and he was at Poison Girl, which we were also talking about between segments. And he was at Poison Girl, and he was telling a story that
Freddie?
his wife, so Booker's Rye, this was Fred, not Freddie.
Not
it was
Fred, the elder.
The elder. And he had Booker's Rye, which was a one-time release that sells for about $2,000 now. And he had it sitting out, and his wife had friends over, and they were mixing it with like Dr. Pepper or something
my
like
gosh.
that. And he came out in the morning to find that the bottle was empty. And she said, "Oh, well, I just grabbed a rye off the shelf to mix with the ladies," which I'm sure it was
I bet it
absolutely
was
delicious.
great.
They loved it.
I bet it was real
But
good.
there is a rye revolution happening. You guys, what you said is what we've found anytime we sit down and drink rye with people is everyone is saying, I'm really getting into rye.
That reminds me, your rye story about the Booker's rye reminds me of our drinking fact from last week, which was an attempt to set the Guinness World Record for the world's most expensive cocktail was thwarted when a customer dropped and broke a bottle of cognac that was worth $77,000. That was last week's drinking fact. So
Don't want to be that customer.
Yeah.
don't want to drink Fred's older Booker's rye. Well, I was going to say. I hoard my bottle of Little Book. I've got about this much left, and I don't want to let it go. But Terry, I'm starting to cough. How much longer do we have in this segment?
Are you going to need me to talk now?
Sure, yeah, go for it. I'm going to drink some water.
So I'm actually just on fun. Going back to that IPA and that and the rye are so bizarrely good together.
Yeah. Which is it? We've talked about this before that IPAs and ryes do
and
go
ryes,
very
yes,
well with each
are
other.
strangely good together.
All right, so you're pouring another one. What are you pouring here?
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
fun one.
so this is a special bottle. This is a
because the
maple
other
rye.
ones we had weren't special. So
Well,
thank you.
this is
Thank you
special
for
in a
bringing us a
different way.
special bottle.
So this one is a 6-year MGP that we got through William Price. So we worked with William Price. We actually have a side group, a maple syrup group that is sort of making fun of bourbon a little bit.
William Price's rye
Yeah.
is an outrageously good rye too.
Yeah. Let me pour
Hold
one.
it on that side of you. So we can see it on the camera.
Oh yes,
Oh,
yes,
hold it
yes.
over
Let
here.
me get it up. I don't know if everyone got a pour
Let's
yet.
get rid of that
I
pumpkin
didn't.
eater. That's too long.
There you go. So this is a 6-year MGP rye, and we sourced maple syrup from Vermont. It's called Mom and Pop's, which is our favorite maple syrup. It's not cheap. This was a product of love rather than a product of trying to make profit. So we filled a rye cask with maple syrup, aged it, sold the maple syrup for charity, and then we put this rye in that maple syrup barrel. So this aged in a maple
Nice.
barrel for 10 weeks.
I cannot wait to taste this, which we will do in our next segment. Tree tappers everywhere. Stand by. We're going to be tasting something that you'll be excited about. Next is Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back at Smoking and Toasting. Our program is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. By the way, I mentioned that we were going to talk about this, so I don't want to fail to do so. Scandinavian Tobacco Group, the parent company of General Cigar, Forge Cigar Company, Cigars International, and others, has informed retailers that it is discontinuing some select lines from the Forge portfolio. They've announced that Bolivar, El Rico Habano, and Helix have been discontinued. Now, they are going to continue to do the Bolivar Cofradia and the Bolivar Gran Republica, which was the one that I
The one you reviewed,
talked
yeah.
about today, which was really good. But the lines being continued will no longer be subject to minimum pricing requirements, which means you might see them at your favorite tobacconist heavily discounted, but there will not be any more of those. So just a little cigar news to keep you up to speed. But the Gran Republica you will still be able to get, as it's not being discontinued. So we have got a lot of tasting to do on today's show, and I just wanted to let everybody know, I had a little issue earlier with swallowed something wrong and I was coughing for a little while, but I am up for the challenge. I don't want anybody to think that I'm backing away from the challenge of tasting what we need to taste today.
It's not if you win or lose. It's how hard you can take that hit.
That's
and
right.
Still get up.
And roll with it, baby.
That's right. And still
Yeah.
get up. And I just watched one of the Rocky movies the other day.
Oh, see, there you go. There you go. And in a similar vein, I've been watching season 2 of Tulsa King with Stallone. It's one of the best shows
Ooh, I
on
haven't
TV.
watched that yet.
If you're not watching it, you need to. It's amazing. It's so good. It's like The Sopranos meets Rocky meets like Tulsa. It's just wonderful. It's wonderful. Anyway, let's. Stallone is brilliant in it. He's so good in it. It's awesome. You're rooting for him from the very beginning. What are we tasting here, guys? You poured something that looks very interesting to me.
This is the Maple Bomb by William
so you
Price.
talked about this.
That is no lie.
It is a Maple Bomb.
And here's the deal. It doesn't taste maple flavored.
Right.
It tastes like maple.
Because it's real Vermont
It's
maple
so
syrup.
good.
So we call them, I lived up in that area, we called them tree tappers, the guys that actually go out and harvest the syrup. And the guy that I used to work for there, he was from a family of tree tappers. That was what they did. They literally go out to a tree and poke stuff in it and the
My
syrup pours out.
brother-in-law, his family up in Michigan, that's what they did.
Yeah?
Well, they did. I think Dad decided he was tired of it, but
This is
because we didn't
really
get any maple
interesting.
syrup this year.
This is really interesting.
Wild.
And one of the things that I like most in spirits are these kind of flavors. When I can get a good añejo tequila that has that vanilla and maple, or a whiskey, but this is more maple than almost any whiskey I've ever tried.
This is outrageous.
That's the idea. That's the idea.
It's-
We
it's
wanted it
amazing.
to be upfront, but not overwhelmingly sweet.
So were you involved in the making of this?
Yeah, we created it. Yeah, it was our idea.
There's a bit of cinnamon on the finish too that's really, really nice.
Yeah, so we chose a rye that had lots of spice and good character that we felt like the sweetness wouldn't destroy it or over sweeten it. So I think it worked out well because this is a 95.5 MGP rye, so it's very high rye content.
So
Now,
If
and
you-
let's talk about MGP just for a moment, because I don't know that all of our listeners know what that means when you say that.
Yeah, Midwest grained producers.
This is Indiana, right?
right.
Indiana rye, and they create a lot of the whiskey that you see on the shelf, whether it's
They
a rye
make
or a bourbon.
Tons of
A
it. Yeah.
ton of it, yeah. And so a lot of brands that aren't distilling themselves buy MGP, and they do their thing with it.
Do their
In this
own
case, we
aging
put it in
or
a maple
finishing,
barrel.
aging.
Finishing,
You know,
yeah.
yeah.
This is outstanding.
Yeah.
And you can find this
It's
now
amazing.
at William Price, and if you're in Houston, you can find it at William Price Distillers in the Heights.
Nice.
$65.
And just to put it
that's
out there
amazing.
too, a sourced product. Don't put put your nose up at anything sourced. Because MGP makes beautiful whiskeys. The only kind of controversy that comes around that is when people will sell an MGP product as if they didn't source it.
Right.
Like the transparency on the label is a big thing, but they make some great expressions, and then a lot of companies will buy their expressions and finish it or do their own thing with it and put their own label on it. But you'll read on there that this is sourced or
distilled in Indiana,
bottled and distilled in Indiana. Those kind of things.
Well, this is spectacular. I mean, this all
really good.
day I would drink this.
And I will
This
just
is
say
so
that
good.
this is something cool that William Price does. Is a lot of these one-off, really cool, different things, and that's why we love him. In
Now,
Houston
the William Price rye I've had a few times, and I don't think I've ever actually looked at the label. Is that made here or is that sourced?
No, they're fully sourced
They're
right
fully
now.
sourced.
Yeah,
Okay.
they produce their own
That rye
spirits.
that they have is so good. It's outrageous.
I think it's mostly MGP that they're working with, but they do lots of interesting finishing. Like they've bought barrels from Balcones, and they have sherry finishes and things like that.
Is this something that will be available at the social?
I think it will be, and for sure. So I know we said the BTAC and the Pappy classes are sold out, but we also have master classes that are for free. If you're a ticket holder, you can sign up for them. We'll have them happening during the event. William Price is hosting one of them. I know for sure it will be in that master class that they're doing the tasting of their things. So if you want to taste it,
So
come on
tickets
out.
available, whiskysocial.com. If you buy your ticket, you can then sign up through Eventbrite for these classes within the event.
I'm just absolutely stoked.
This
for
is so
this.
spicy, cinnamon and maple.
Again, we talked about this with the rye,
So good.
but sitting back and having a cigar with this, oh my
Yeah.
God,
Mm-hmm.
this is just perfect.
It's like a cocktail in a bottle. It's 118 proof,
really-
by the way, which
Is
doesn't
it
really
really?
drink that.
Yeah, you would not taste
I
that.
had no idea.
the
No.
maple sort of hides that, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is,
There's so little heat on that at
Yeah.
all. There's almost no
The
whiskey
maple
hug.
just rounded it off. Like I said, we were careful in choosing the rye barrel that we were going to put the maple in because it could destroy a whiskey very
Well,
easily.
did you pick something intentionally that had extra bold spice?
Absolutely, yeah,
because
yeah.
it had to stand up to that.
Yeah.
I'm
And
so
I get
impressed.
it. It's this is a maple bomb, but there's also a substantial amount of cinnamon
Yeah.
and also just some body to it that's really, really nice.
I'm
The
so
mouthfeel on
impressed.
this is really nice.
Well, we need to take a break, and we will return momentarily with drinking news. But wow, you've got one more whiskey left, and I got to tell you guys, this is
One
going to be
last
hard to top. These last two have been so incredible. So it'll be interesting to see what you saved for last. We'll get to that coming up. It's Smoking a Toastin'. So groovy. You're mentioning the groove, the Quincy Jones groove. It's not Quincy Jones, but it's
Or Bill Cosby.
groovy.
Well, the bass player on that is a guy named Westside.
Pretty good. Pretty good. The guitar player could use some work, but the bass player is not bad. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toastin'. Our program is all about craft beer. I'm just giving you a hard time, right?
I know.
Yeah. All right.
I know. When you say things like that, a little part of me dies inside.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's the part of me that has feelings.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. The part of you that gave a crap, right?
That's right.
Exactly. We were very excited to get to this portion of the show because for some unknown reason, this has become the single most popular element on the show, which isn't saying a lot, but it's something, right?
So we were lowering the bar daily.
Drinking news is where we bring you a story that has come from the news. It's not a made up or a parody story,
Ostensibly.
but it is something that does often, but not always, involve drinking. But is always best enjoyed if you've been drinking. Ladies and gentlemen, you remember your lines, right? Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for drinking news.
Drinking news, drinking news. Now it's time for drinking news. A Florida man with one arm said he had a gator for a pet. When asked about his absent arm, he said,
I
have to take my gator to the vet.
Ooh, in stereo. I love that.
drinking news, drinking
Nailed it.
news. Now it's time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all. Well done, guys. That was, and we didn't even practice. I just want you to know. Just told them what we were going to do. They didn't practice. It was very well done. Well, we'd like to begin this week's edition of Drinking News with a public service announcement to a particular criminal, just in case he or she is listening.
Just in case, I know that guy.
To the person who stole a vacuum cleaner from the bed of Don Shump's. Yeah, from the bed of Don Shump's pickup truck in Pennsylvania recently, we are warning you not to try and change the vacuum's bag. Shump is the owner
Is it possessed?
of the Philadelphia Bee Company.
Oh,
And the contents of that vacuum, which you lifted from the back of his truck, are the results of a job Shump had just completed, where he vacuumed up a very large amount, hundreds, of European hornets, at least half of which were queens, from an infested home in Malvern, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Shump had parked his truck and was planning to freeze the hornets, but before he could do that, you stole the vacuum cleaner in question. Now, Shump reported on social media.
I'm sorry, but that's the best.
He reported on social media
Instant karma.
that these hornets are, and I'm quoting here, the largest social stinging insects in the eastern United States, end quote. So
I
whatever
bet
you
those
do.
things hurt.
So whatever
Social
you do.
stinging, that's a lot at once.
Yeah, don't open it to change the bag. Or on second thought, do open it. Go for it. What could possibly go wrong? Right?
Well, you done stole the vacuum.
That'd make for a hell of an unboxing video on YouTube,
shame.
wouldn't it?
It's a shame there wasn't a video camera inside that thing.
Stump has actually stated, by the way,
That's better than a glitter bomb right there.
Shump has actually stated, by the way, that if you are willing to return the hornet-filled device, that he will not press charges, and all will be forgiven. You see what I did there?
I'm glad you enunciated well, Donald Shump.
Yeah, right. Geez, my wife is right, though. I am turning into my father. This bad joke thing. But our main story today, in today's episode of Drinking News, involves a rather eccentric type of artist and what can correctly be described as some really crappy artwork. It seems that 39-year-old Ernest McKnight, a Florida man,
Florida man.
Which is a show on Netflix now, by the way.
I know it's brilliant, right?
Yeah. It seems that Mr. McKnight, the Florida man, was arrested recently for burglary and petty theft, not an uncommon occurrence in the Sunshine State. But while waiting in a holding cell at the Lake Wales Police Department, our Florida man became, let's just say, inspired.
Oh.
Now, as many of you know, when I become inspired, I often write poetry or prose.
You do break out in poetry.
But our perp
And sometimes a haiku.
Ernest McKnight apparently has a different talent.
Oh boy.
He likes to paint. Now, as I'm sure you know, there are very few art supplies available in a police holding cell.
So he uses acrylic?
But did that stop our Florida man from
Watercolors.
deciding to create his own masterpiece? Of course not. An artist must create art, after all. So McKnight did what any Florida man would do. He improvised, using material that he could make available to himself right there in the cell.
Key is he could make it available to himself.
I would imagine that you see where this is going. Police say that instead of
Don't
paper
wanna
and
see it.
pen or paint and canvas,
Instead of dipping your brush into the ink pot.
this man created his own canvas using the cell door and walls, and the medium he used, not oil, not acrylic. The Florida man painted using, yes, you know this is coming, right? His own poop.
Florida man.
That's right. Our incarcerated Norman Crapwell painted the walls and doors with feces, creating his own masterpiece. Just imagine being the officer processing his paperwork, right? 1 minute you're typing the arrest information into your desktop computer, and the next you begin to smell that something
He's
has
a
gone
Pablo Picasso.
horribly wrong from the holding cell down the hall. You get up to investigate, and suddenly you are faced with the crappiest mural, literally, that you've ever seen. The officer was forced to call in a biohazard unit, the Polk County Sheriff's Environmental Crime Unit, to decommission the painting and clear the scene of any of the Florida man's artistic musings. Ernest McKnight added a couple of additional charges to his rap sheet, including criminal mischief and criminal nuisance injurious to
there's
health.
something. Wait. There's something that's been left out of here. Okay?
Yeah.
I get that all this is terrible and probably stunk pretty bad. But was the art actually any good?
Well, the one thing we do know about it
No one stood close enough.
is it was crappy.
Crappy.
Yeah.
So speaking of corn,
This,
Oh my goodness! Did he paint happy little trees? Did Bob Ross just turn over in his grave?
Our
Is that what's
Florida, Our Florida man was remanded to the Polk County Jail, where unconfirmed reports suggest that deputies have given him a sketch pad and some crayons and have begged him to just use those if inspiration strikes
So this
again.
is one of those instances, because I've always said, like, if you're going to appreciate art, go look at the actual piece,
Right.
because the depth and character of the piece of art doesn't come through on a print. But I think that we're going the other direction with this one.
I think we may be.
Yeah.
Don't look at that actual piece.
Obviously, this crime really stinks. And you can probably agree with that, especially if you're one of the millions of human beings who has ever left the bathroom and warned others nearby, do not go in there.
Did you hear about the guy that walked into Home Depot? He walks into the bathroom and he goes, "Dude, I'm about to blow this place up. You might want to get out of here." And so someone went out of the bathroom and they called the cops because there was a terrorist in the bathroom.
They were going to bomb the
And by the way, they were correct.
And when they interviewed the guy, he's like, "Oh man, I just know when we go over to my my sister's house on Thanksgiving, my uncle's always like, man, I'm about to blow it up in there, and I always appreciate the warning, you know. So
yeah,
I just thought I was
sure.
passing it down."
Well, what you may not know is that poop
True story, too.
Poop has had a larger influence on artwork throughout the ages than many of us realize. After combing historical records here at Drinking News, we have found numerous examples of this. And while it's entirely possible that not all of these are completely true, actually, it's entirely possible that none of these are true. But that won't stop us from bringing them to you today in the form of another Drinking News Top 5 list. This would be the top 5 little-known poop-related facts about famous art. Top 5 little-known poop-related facts about famous art. Number 5, those were obviously house-trained dogs playing poker. Number 4, that look on the Mona Lisa's face, constipation.
I was gonna say gas.
Number 3, the famous painting The Last Supper does not show Judas preparing to kiss Jesus. He's actually asking to be excused to use the men's room after eating too many olives. Number 2, Rodin's first idea for his famous sculpture, The Thinker, would have had the statue sitting and thinking on a porcelain throne. And the number 1 little-known poop-related fact about famous art, number 1, the famous painting The Scream was actually inspired by the face that artist Edvard Munch made when he discovered his roommate at the Royal School of Art and Design in Norway forgot to flush.
Well, I'm glad we classed it up for our guests from the Whiskey Social today.
Yeah, absolutely. Reporting live from Florida, where I will repeat my warning from earlier, do not go in there. My name is Cruz, and that is your...
Drinking news, drinking news. That's our time for drinking news.
Cheers, y'all.
I'm not gonna lie, that was a
review
crappy
art
story.
too.
Yeah.
That took a lot out of me. It really did.
That was a crappy story.
Yeah. So, all right. So
Elijah Craig.
we have poured some Elijah Craig here. Tell me what's
Speaking of
going
cinnamon.
on.
Yeah.
There's something unusual about this bottle of Elijah Craig.
So I had last night. I went to Reserve 101 and I had their Elijah Craig barrel pick, and it is a cinnamon chocolate bomb.
Yep. Yeah. So cinnamon is the biggest note that people talk
Yeah,
about with
yeah.
Heaven Hill and Elijah Craig, and I think we picked a great one. So this was in March.
Yeah,
I think
and
we
you can
were
find
out
the
there.
Heaven Hill bottled and bond on the shelf all day.
That's
long.
right.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, March,
So-
April, thereabouts. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we picked a really good one. I think this is what bourbon is supposed to taste like. It's got cinnamon caramel. vanilla. I mean, it's got a little butterscotch, maybe like everything you want.
Fantastic. Wow.
Yeah, and it's got that mineral water note on the back end that I really enjoy. Like
Plenty of oak.
But it's like on the tongue, it's
like
just
almost an
cinnamon
oatmeal
all
kind
day.
of thing
Yeah.
too.
So this is the bottle that we give out to our Pappy customers, the ones that buy the Pappy tickets. But it will also go on sale after the event. So if you're in Houston, look out for those.
What's this going to retail for?
$79.99.
Okay, that's worth booking an airplane ticket to Houston if you live somewhere else. No kidding. This is totally worth it. This is fantastic.
This has got some heat, but in a beautiful way.
Mm-hmm.
Like heat's not to be avoided. Some whiskeys will have more, and some will have, and sometimes it's harsh. This is not harsh. This is
120.
beautiful.
6.8.
This is a beautiful whiskey hug at 126.8.
Yeah.
Holy
I think it was one that when we picked it, you know, we do them all blind when we're in the Rick House. It's actually an amazing setting at Heaven Hill.
yeah.
We picked them, and we were surprised at all the things that you're talking about in maybe a slightly younger age. This is 8 years, and at the proof that it was at, but it stood out significantly.
That's the
for
sweet
us.
spot for, I think, for Elijah Craig, 8 to 10 maximum.
So
is all
tell
you
me a little bit
There's
more
a
about this process.
Kiss of chocolate too, just on the retro hail. Like after
Yes.
after
Totally.
swallow it. I mean, just beautiful little kiss of this milky kind.
Tell
of
me a little
chocolate.
bit more about this process of selecting the barrel pick. What do you do? Where do you go? How does the
Invite
day
us
progress?
along.
Yeah.
So we make an annual trip of it for the Whiskey Social. This is the special bottle, again, that we give out to our Pappy customers. And Heaven Hill, we go in the Rick House, so you have the smell, the temperature. When we were there in March, I think it was still a little bit cool. It's just one of my favorite things to do. They roll out 3 barrels. We blind taste them, and everyone kind of votes. The people that are there, we all kind of decide what is our
Never been a
favorite.
part of one of those, and I'm so jealous.
We'll have to do one locally sometime then.
Yeah.
That would be fun. Like, so
That 100%.
is that something like, how could you do that where you could open it up to like interested people, whiskey enthusiasts, that they could buy a ticket to come be a part of something like that, helping to choose a barrel pick?
Well, a couple. So back to William Price, they've done barrel picks at the distillery every year with the Houston Bourbon Society. We also go out to Iron Root Distillery in Denison, and
Love those guys.
So fun. They're so
when
nice.
they have barrels available, we love to bring 30, 40 people out there.
Yeah.
We did it at we went to Fierce Whiskers. We didn't pick a barrel.
One yet. Yeah.
But so we have if you're in Houston Bourbon Society, we've done these experiences where anybody can come. We do limit the size, but there's plenty of time to get in, and then we go out to a distillery and taste and pick something.
And I've got to figure that there's things like this going on in other cities as well.
Absolutely.
People just have to
Every city.
get on the internet, maybe get on Facebook or Instagram and take a look at what they might be able to find that would do this type of thing.
We'll have to do it at the Whiskey Social sometime.
I love that idea, and I just want to say you guys have continued to like surprise and surpass everything that you brought. Like I don't even know what is my favorite at this point.
Yeah,
because everything
I
has
agree.
been
I
so
agree.
good.
Yes. There's nothing bad here at all.
So this is fantastic, and I just want to point out. Ian mentioned this earlier. Unlike when we had Chris Hart on the show promoting the social, you'll actually be able to buy some of these, which is like, Chris would always bring this great stuff from his collection. And they were amazing whiskeys. We'd be like, oh my God, what does this retail for? He goes, yeah, it's not really available at retail. I was like, okay, thanks, Chris. All right, we got to take a break. We will be back to wrap things up. It's Smoking and Toasting. Welcome back. It's Smoking and Toasting. Our show is all about craft beer, fine spirits, and hand-rolled cigars. It's show number 405. We're talking a lot about whiskey today, but I want to divert our attention back to craft beer for a moment. As Ian poured in our last segment, we haven't talked about this beer. This is our
Sparge. Bourbon
No Sparge.
barrel, no Sparge, Imperial Golden Ale.
So Golden
And
Ale
it is
obviously is a thing.
Delicious.
Yeah. You're liking this, aren't you?
The nose
So-
is crazy on this.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So the Sparge, like when you're brewing, you take your malt, you mill it or crack it open basically, and then you put it in a mash tun, and you put it in there with water, and you bring it up to a specific temperature.
Yeah.
And at that temperature, you're separating the sugars from the malt, and you hold it at that temperature for X amount of time to extract those sugars, and then you take that you take that water out of there that's loaded with all those sugars, and that's what you start making your beer or liquors with. Even. And then the sparging is when you rinse the leftover malt to extract any more sugars that you may have or anything else. But you also are diluting a little bit because you're adding water to the mixture as well.
Right.
So this is skipping the sparge stage. It means basically you're going straight from we've extracted all the sugars from the mash. Now we're taking it directly into the brew kettle.
Well, this has got bold flavor to it. Sometimes golden ales are kind of mellow. Like, they're just like an easy drinking ale. That's not how I describe this at all. This is bold and kind of in your face.
I love this.
This is so good.
Yeah, it is really delicious. Really delicious. It's almost syrupy.
So malty. I absolutely 100% love this. It's so malty.
This would pair well with the maple rye, I feel like.
It's so malty. You
Actually,
almost
I happen to have some of that in my glass. So let's,
this is so malty. You almost get that barley wine kind of raisin kind of
oh my
fruitiness to it.
For real.
Is that it?
Do you have any more of the maple?
I do not.
Okay,
now you do.
Wow.
We got to try. You got to try this before the end of the segment.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Because I just went from this Imperial Golden Ale, the Taxman Brewing Company Bourbon Barrel No Sparge, back to
I got to try it.
this, and this is like a pairing for the ages.
It really is.
It really is amazing.
It really goes well. It really goes well.
Ian, your thoughts, sir?
Oh my goodness.
Because I trust you on pairing.
So
right?
okay, so if you go from the maple whiskey to the beer, it turns it into a fruit bomb.
Wow, you're so
Like an
right.
absolute fruit bomb. It's
like
crazy.
Cherries and
Like that
blueberries
is as
and
Belgian fruity as you can possibly get. Right?
It just leaves that maple on your palate.
and that's a good thing, no matter how it happened.
And
but you
going
are so
from-
right. This is like a fruit cocktail when you go back to it after trying the maple. So this William Price, this is
and going back to the maple.
Yeah, it goes the other way. It's super caramel.
It goes the other
Wow,
way. Good.
yeah, caramel. And,
yeah,
and,
right, exactly.
mhm.
So you guys said this is available at William Price Distillery specifically, right?
Only William Price.
Is this something
$65.
people from out of state could get their hands on?
I don't think they ship.
I don't think
Yeah.
they can. Yeah, they got to
I think
go
it may be.
physically.
But if you have a friend in Houston that's willing to hook you up, potentially.
Wow. This is just
Hook you up.
wonderful stuff. I mean, seriously.
that's something special. That's really fun.
I want to say everything you guys brought today was outrageously good.
Amazing.
And thank you for
Awesome.
that. But there are just a couple of standouts, and this, to me, is one of them.
It's hard to pick because you started it with a tale of cake.
Yeah.
Which
Right.
is unbelievable.
And at the time, honestly, when they poured that first, I was like, these guys have no idea what they're doing. If you're opening with this,
Pierre
you're
Ferrand,
going to have a hard time
a single cask.
staying.
Somehow we got more decadent as
Somehow
Amazing.
you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny
Unbelievable.
because I don't know that I could rate any of these better than the rest, but they do.
different.
You kind of introduced it in levels of like just boldness and flavor too. That was
I just want to mention that to me, today's program is a wonderful example of what I've always envisioned this show to be about. It is not only that we'll have a good time tasting these things, but being able to share like our enthusiasm for these things with people. It's like, when you're standing in that aisle, and I do it, like with all of the stuff we've tasted on this show, I still sometimes stand in that aisle looking at all the bourbons or the rums or whatever, and go, what do I want?
Yeah.
To have somebody who says, oh my God, if you can go to the William Price Distillery and get this, you will not be disappointed. That's huge.
So let me also put a thing in perspective. If you're ever looking at going to a whiskey event and you think, okay, well, $100 is pretty pricey for a ticket, okay? We have 5 whiskeys here today, right? Each one of these at almost any bar, if you could even get something like these at almost any bar, these would be $12 to $18 per pour.
Yeah.
Times 5 of these is instantly, that's 5 for the price of that ticket. I want you to also consider that you guys have 300 and 50-ish expressions there. And all you do is you pay your money and walk in the door
Yeah.
and
start choosing, right?
See, for me,
definitely choose. Don't try everything.
It works well for somebody that's trying to explore. In the Houston Bourbon Society, we're always telling people go to a bar and taste it. Right? You want to taste. You have to
because
taste a lot of whiskey.
You don't have to commit to a whole bottle. Of
Right.
it, right.
But it also works for like a connoisseur as well because we have lots of cool stuff that people haven't tasted before. So there's something for everybody.
And that's one of the things that I just absolutely love about the social and why we rave about it so much, because you guys have such great variety and such great ability for you to go around and try these new things. Real quick, there was something you wanted to mention in this final
You can
segment
buy it going out the door.
about the social.
Oh yeah. So go ahead, Dom.
I mean, one, tickets at HoustonWhiskeySocial.com, but two, we have a retail partner on site that if you like any of the pours that are available on the shelf, specs will be there. You can pre-order them that night, go pick it up in the store later that week.
So we can
anything you
actually go, okay, while we remember.
Right?
Taste
While you
that-
remember what you like.
that I loved this
I'm gonna make
particular
that order.
one, I can go and I can order it, and then I can pick it up in my favorite
right.
specs. Love that idea.
Yes, because sometimes by the time you get that Uber ride home,
Yeah, you're like, I don't
You're like-
remember.
Man, everything was so good.
Good.
Everything was so good. And, Uber's not a sponsor of the show, but you know who is? Our good friends at Lone Pint, who provided
Delicious.
today's
Those guys, I already
who
drank
provided
mine.
today's show beers. We're all drinking. Most of us are drinking the Yellow Rose. Ian had one of the pale ales. I love this.
Turned into a Price is Right model now.
Yeah. Lone Pint. It's wonderful. Have a great week, my friends. We'll see you back here next week for show number 406. And if you are in the Houston area or can get to the Houston area for the Whiskey Social, it is absolutely worth your time and your cash. Have a great week. We'll see you next. And cheers y'all.
Cheers. Thanks for having us.
And I should